Hello everyone, this is Patch from boldaction.net and the Ghost Army podcast. I'm going to take you through a video today on JTFM or Die Waffenkammer tanks, how to prepare these vehicles for painting. So first thing I'm going to do is actually show you what can happen when you don't prime one of these vehicles correctly. What I have here is an R35 French tank from JTFM. I painted this vehicle a couple of years ago and I didn't prepare the vehicle correctly. What's starting to occur now is through fatigue, is that it's actually starting to flake. When you see a vehicle starting to flake, you'll notice that some chips start to appear where the resin is starting to show through. Example, what can occur is just using this screwdriver, you can start to just chip away, and all of a sudden the paint just starts to come away, leaving the bare resin behind. When you see this occurring on your vehicle, what this is a symptom of is that the primer has not adhered to the resin. And when you have painted over that, there has only been the smallest amount holding that on to the vehicle. Any pressure would have been placed on that vehicle and the paint would have flaked off, just as you're seeing here, at any time. And you can see it just starting to flake off as easy as that. If you've just spent many hours of your time painting up a vehicle and this starts to occur, you know how heartbreaking it is. How do we stop this from happening? We prepare the vehicle correctly in the first place. If we do that, like I have done with these vehicles, you will see no flaking occur. I'm not going to do it, but you could potentially just do that and you won't have that same thing. Now the way we'll do that is by using an enamel primer as opposed to an acrylic, in which I used in this case. So next up, I'm going to show you an unboxing of a JTFM tank, a T34-76. So what I have here is, still in the box, a JTFM T34-76 model, 1943 UZTM Ulramash turret, includes crew figure and stowage 1 to 56 scale. Made in Canada. So what I'll do is open up the box. Now one of the trademarks of JTFM is how well packaged the contents generally are. So what we've got a nice little sheet, a reference sheet with a direct idea of what's in there. So we've got a hull, turret, left track, right track, main gun, hatch, tarp, 3 tarps, 3 ammunition crates and a crew figure. Now you'll note here in red, wash thoroughly in warm soapy water, rinse and let dry. Use an enamel or automotive primer. So let's have a look at what we've got. So that would be the tank there, and some stowage. So carefully packaged in here is the barrel. And what Jeff does is put a nice little bit of cardboard under there or metal, and what that does is hold the barrel so it's nice and straight when it gets to us. I've never seen a breakage. A couple of tarps, some crates, and a hatch. So open up and have a look at the tank itself. So that's how it comes. Look how beautiful clean this is. So the tracks are just like this, and the turret comes off, and you've got the main hull cast. So this is the tank we're going to have a look at and prepare, and that's how it comes from JTFM. Very, very nice piece of kit. Okay, so now we've taken the tank out of the box and we want to do the first thing, which is give it a clean. Now when these tanks are produced, these vehicles are produced, quite often there's something within there which is some sort of chemical which assists in the process of prying these parts or out of the molds. And it's commonly referred to as a mold release agent. Now they recommend giving it a wash in some warm soapy water. In this particular case, and what that's going to do is just remove all the last traces of it. If it's still on the tank when we go to paint it, we run the risk of our primer not adhering to it or it continue to go out and affect our paint job later on. So we want to give it a really good wash. All I've got here is some warm soapy water, and it's just some normal liquid detergent from the kitchen into a bowl. Now I want to give it a good clean, so everything can just go in. Now we don't want this to be hot. If it is hot, what can happen is that the resin can start to grow softer and go out of shape. So it just has to be nice and warm, but not hot. So everything goes in, including the hole. And what I use is an old toothbrush, and we get in there and just scrub away. Now you can leave them in there for a while, or you can just give it a scrub like this and put it down. Now once everything has been scrubbed and you think you might have got all the mold release agent off, you'll then want to rinse it in just normal water to get rid of then all the soap. Just like that. I'll complete doing this, I'll rinse it, I'll put it together, and we'll come back in our next step, which will be priming the vehicle. So now that I've put the tank together, you can clearly see how such a nice tank this really is. So I'm just going to go with a straight clean. So I've left off a clean tank, so I've left off the tarps for the moment. There's plenty of things keeping this tank busy, which is really good. So the next step I'm going to do is to actually prime the vehicle. Now a primer, really it scours the surface of for example this tank, and it allows paint to adhere then to the primer as opposed to the water-based paint trying to adhere to the surface. If you were to put a normal paint onto the surface of this, it would bead because it's not adhering well enough. So we need to put a primer on. Now we've spoken about this, but JTFM, the type of resin, something within the resin that JTFM uses, rejects acrylic. So what you'll have is what happened to my R35. It will flake after a while if you use an acrylic primer, such as an Army Painter or any other primer that's based on acrylic paint. So you need to get an enamel paint, which is what I use. This I picked up from my local hobby shop, and it's a Model Master enamel primer. Just a small bottle, cost me a couple of dollars, and so far has probably done 12 to 13 vehicles without a problem at all. So this one, you'll note with an enamel, They've got quite a strong smell, so doing a well ventilated area. And for me, it's a very simple matter of just applying it with a paintbrush. You just need to get enough to give a thin layer on the vehicle. You don't need to cover it with a very thick layer. It's really just a nice thin layer. Getting into all the crevices. Just like that. And this is what I'll then use an acrylic based paint to do the base coat. So this will just take me a few minutes. Really it's about 5 minutes or so to put this paint down. I'll finish this and I'll come back and show you. So I finished off with the priming using the enamel primer, so it's all grey, and then what I did was use an Army Painter black spray paint, gave it a spray all over, and then just using a bit of a green spray as well, just to give it a light covering. And what I'll be doing now is actually using the airbrush and bringing in some colours, some highlights and some depths to that tank. So that's going to be the end of part one of getting your JTFM vehicle prepared for painting. So the steps were, once we got it out of the box, we had the assembly, then it was the cleaning, or just before the assembly, the cleaning, using some soapy water, warm water. Once that was dry, fully dry, then I applied an enamel primer, just with a brush. Took about 10 minutes. Then I allowed that to dry overnight. And during the day, and then this afternoon, I just hit it with a standard Army Painter black acrylic primer. And got to remember that is actually adhering to the enamel primer, not to the resin. So there's that layer there. And then I just hit with a bit of a green plastic soldier spray over the top of it, just to give it some coloration. And so now I'll be using an airbrush and putting some colour, some depths and some highlights all over the vehicle. So this is the T34 from JTFM, ready to start painting in the next episode.